Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking on a source document that is, well, it's not a theoretical handbook. It's more like a forensic, almost military-grade execution manual. We're diving into a project management blueprint that is so detailed it contains 999 discrete, auditable actions.
999.
Right, mapped across the entire project lifecycle. Now, I'm sure your first thought is 999 steps. That sounds like a recipe for just bureaucracy.
Of course.
Yeah.
But the source material delivers this crucial and frankly stunning diagnosis right at the top. It argues that complex projects don't fail because an organization lacks knowledge. They have the best experts.
So why did they fail?
They fail because essential actions are missed, delayed, assumed, or, and this is key, executed out of sequence. It's fundamentally a discipline problem, not a knowledge problem.
It makes so much sense.
Exactly. This document is explicitly called an execution instrument. It's not designed to teach theory, but to force consistent behavior. That huge number, 999 actions, is a direct response to the real-world culprits.
Which are what? Crippling workloads?
Crippling workload, fragmented responsibility, and just crushing time pressure. When the heat is on, you can't rely on memory. You need a structure, a sequence that makes sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Okay, so let's unpack this blueprint. Our mission today is to walk through the 4 main project phases: mandate, planning, execution, and closeout. We're going to reveal the most critical moments of control and discipline hidden in this framework. You know, what's the real cost of skipping step 443? We're about to find out.
The whole philosophy here is built on 3 pillars. The goal is to turn these abstract management ideas into something you can actually audit.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is execution discipline. It forces you to translate soft concepts like stakeholder management into explicit, documented actions. Who signs off? What does the output look like? When does it due? It just removes all ambiguity. The second pillar is systematic risk reduction. And what's fascinating is the focus on known failure points.
Not the black swan events, the things you can't predict.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The document argues that most major project risks, maybe 80%, don't come from the unknown. They come from known actions that someone just didn't take.
Like what, for example?
Things like failing to formally approve a baseline, or neglecting to have lawyers review a vendor contract, or not formally establishing who has authority for what. The checklist targets these known blind spots. It turns project management into a process of elimination.
And that leads to the third pillar, which sounds like it's about governance.
Robust governance and accountability.
Yeah.
Yes. If every single one of those 999 actions can be evidenced and challenged, then assessing project health becomes about facts, not just optimistic assurances from the project manager.
It protects everyone then.
It does. The narrative can't deviate from the audited truth.
So the tool that delivers all this discipline, it's called the action card. This is where the framework gets really granular, right?
This is where it removes all variability. It's a standardized playbook for every critical item. Because if you ask the 10 different people if a task is done, you might get 10 different answers. The card eliminates that. It defines what done truly means.
So what's on one of these cards?
Well, the standardization is key, not just for clarity, but for forensic defensibility. You have the action title, the phase, and crucially, the purpose, the why. Why does this action prevent a specific failure?
I like that. The why.
Then you have the tactical parts, the precise inputs required, the specific action steps, and they are surgical, not generic, and then the required outputs or evidence. This is what makes it auditable. But the section that really elevates this, in my opinion, is the one on common failure modes and the risk if skipped.
Wow, so it tells you how you're likely to mess it up.
It does. For an action like sign-off project charter, a failure mode might be owner approves the charter but forgets to tell procurement. This leads to early, unapproved vendor engagement. It forces teams to learn from historical mistakes, not just tick a box.
I have to ask, though, does this level of rigidity risk stifling agility? You know, you hire these brilliant people to exercise their judgment, and then
you hand them a 999-step rulebook. It's a great question, and the document addresses it head-on.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. The checklist supports judgment. It doesn't replace it. All that rigor is aimed squarely at reducing avoidable failure. By locking down the fundamentals, you free up your best people to focus their energy on the genuinely unavoidable uncertainty.
The things that really do require expert judgment.
Exactly. The structure ensures basic competence, which allows expertise to flourish where it's actually needed.
Okay, so the action card is the how-to. Let's see how these actions fit into the project timeline, starting with phase 1. All right, so we're at the very beginning. Phase 1, project mandate and initiation. That covers the first 120 actions. And this is all about establishing legitimacy before a single dollar is really spent on planning.
This initial focus is so critical. It sets the North Star for everything else. You look at the early actions, they're all about strategic alignment and the mandate.
And the checklist forces you to confirm that the success criteria are, what, business focused, not just about delivery.
Precisely. To put a fine point on it for you, if you're building a new data center, a delivery criteria is complete construction by Q3.
Okay.
A business criteria, which this checklist demands, is achieve 99.999% uptime within 12 months, enabling $5 million in annual savings. It completely shifts the mindset from just building something to delivering actual value.
And it also makes you identify political sensitivities. I see that here, Action 21.
And also validating the mandate's legitimacy, Action 23. You have to confirm you have the authority to proceed. If the project's purpose isn't solid from the start, all the work that follows is built on sand.
Okay, so if phase 1 is about building the right thing for the right reasons, phase 2, detailed planning and baselines, is about figuring out exactly how you're going to build it.
And how you'll manage it and how you'll pay for it. Actions 121 to 320. This is where you lock down the foundations: scope, schedule, cost, and risk.
This is where you anchor control.
Exactly. Let's just dive into the schedule baseline as an example. It's in section 3.2. The checklist goes way beyond just making a list of activities. It forces teams to define detailed, commercially essential rules.
Like, I see float ownership rules in Action 213. Can you break that down for us? It sounds a bit like jargon, but I get the feeling it's a huge deal.
It is a huge deal. It's the source of so many disputes. Float is just the slack time in a schedule. It's the amount of time an activity can be delayed without pushing back the final project end date.
Okay.
Float ownership determines who gets to use that slack time. Is it the contractors, the clients? Is it shared? If you don't define those rules up front, in the baseline, the moment the first delay happens, you have an instant fight on your hands. It can lead directly to a claim.
Wow. So defining that in Action 213 is literally proactive litigation prevention.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And connecting back to the action card, you have this example for Action ID 221, approved schedule baseline.
And the rigor here is just undeniable. The risk, if you skip this, you immediately lose your ability to substantiate any delay claims. You get into disputes over how to even measure progress. You can lose contractual entitlements.
But the quality check is the real kicker here.
It is. The control question you have to answer before you can sign off on this baseline is, could this schedule be defended under cross-examination if used in a dispute?
That forces planners to operate as if they are already in court.
From day one. It completely changes the standard for what a good plan looks like. It turns a planning team into a documentation team.
And before you can even think about starting work, Phase 2 demands this full integration of cost, schedule, and contract. Action 300 is the hard stop. Lock baselines, no exceptions.
You have no right to proceed until those plans are fully secured and approved.
Okay, now we enter the longest phase by far. Phase 3, execution, monitoring, and control. We're talking actions 321 to 860. This is at the heart of the project.
It's over 500 actions. And statistically, this is where most projects fail. Not in planning, but from poor control during execution.
And it kicks off with mobilization, section 4.1, which itself is a massive undertaking.
Mobilization demands so much discipline before a single shovel hits the ground. The checklist has over 60 checks just for readiness. We're not talking about minor details either.
What kind of checks are we talking about?
Verifying the contractual effectiveness date, confirming the competence and certifications of your key people, securing every single permit and license, confirming all your insurance and performance bonds are in place.
Is there a risk here of, like, analysis paralysis? 60 checks before you even start work seems like a lot.
It's challenging, absolutely, but the goal is risk mitigation. It ensures that when you start the massive cash burn of execution, the project is legally, financially, and operationally sound.
Right. So once execution actually begins, the focus shifts. It's not just about doing the work anymore.
It immediately shifts from simple delivery to control, managing the variances against that baseline you worked so hard to approve.
What's a good example of that control focus? I see mentions of performance indices.
That brings us to earned value management in actions 424 and 425. It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about forcing continuous objective explanations for any variance.
So it kills the subjective gut feeling status reports.
It completely eliminates them. Earned value gives you impartial indices, SPI and CPI, that flag problems immediately. Management is forced to quantify and explain every schedule and cost variance every single reporting cycle. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the most intense focus in this phase is on commercial defensibility. That's section 4.3, integrated change, risk and claims control.
The core challenge here seems to be about preventing unauthorized changes, constructive changes, Action 529 calls them.
That's the subtle scope creep that can absolutely destroy a budget almost invisibly.
So to fight that, the checklist must be hammering on documentation. What are the key actions that ensure you can actually defend yourself later?
You've hit on the hardest actions to execute when you're under pressure. For example, Action 537 requires you to maintain a clear cause and effect linkage for all delays.
So you need proof.
You need to preserve contemporaneous records. That's Action 443. You have to link the precise cause, say, a late permit approval, to the exact consequence, a 3-week delay on concrete work and $50,000 in standing time costs.
And it looks like the checklist mandates a proactive legal strategy, too.
It does. It requires preparing for potential adjudication or arbitration. That's Action 554. Those are the formal dispute resolution methods you use before going to court.
And I see Action 555, maintaining without prejudice communications. What does that mean in a project environment?
It's a vital legal shield. It means you formally label sensitive dialogue, like when you're suggesting a compromise to settle a dispute. By labeling it without prejudice, anything said during that negotiation cannot be used as an admission of guilt in court later.
So the checklist faces you to manage this whole documentation stream, knowing the evidence you gather now determines your defensibility later.
That summarizes Phase 3 perfectly. You're not just building a product. You are simultaneously constructing an airtight commercial and contractual history of the project, always assuming every decision might end up under legal scrutiny.
And that brings us to the end. Phase 4, closeout, handover, and benefits, Actions 861 to 999. This stage is so often rushed in real life, isn't it?
It's notoriously rushed. People are tired, the budget is gone, and you end up with dropped balls and lingering disputes. But the checklist makes it highly structured. Professionalism right to the very end.
So how does it break it down?
The closeout process is divided into critical steps. First is technical completion and acceptance. We're talking Actions 901 to 910. This is about verifying all inspections and tests and resolving the punch list.
The list of final fixes.
Right. But the checklist demands you classify those punch list items by criticality. You have to separate the minor cosmetic issues from items that affect safety or performance before you can get that formal certificate of completion. Then you move to handover and readiness, Actions 911 to 920. You have to confirm the operational performance against those initial criteria we set way back in Phase 1.
You have to prove it works.
And prove that the operations staff have been fully trained on the new asset. Only then can you secure the formal handover acceptance certificate. Contractually, the focus then shifts immediately to defect liability management, releasing retained funds, and ensuring all disputes are formally closed.
And the critical final loop, lessons learned and benefits realization. Actions 931 to 999. This ensures the knowledge is formalized and, more importantly, it validates whether that business need from Phase 1 was actually met.
Did we actually achieve the 99.999% uptime?
Exactly.
The final actions are a full financial and procedural audit trail. You have to report the final cost versus that locked baseline, explain every single variance, and then ensure the comprehensive archiving of all contractual correspondence and records. It's about updating the organizational memory, not just filing something away. #outro.
What resonates most for me is this uncompromising shift from relying on hope to demanding proof. Across all 999 actions, we see how knowledge is translated into consistent execution. The whole blueprint is designed for predictability. It moves you away from relying on individual heroism, that one brilliant project manager who somehow keeps every detail in their head. This system ensures the average performance is excellent.
And that consistency is the immense professional development value here. By exposing practitioners to this full breadth of control points, from defining float ownership to preparing for arbitration, this structure highlights the critical difference between just doing an activity and exercising strategic control.
It's a professional standard. It's a pathway for every practitioner to understand what that standard for managing complex work really is.
So what does this all mean for you? We saw this intense focus on auditing and commercial defensibility throughout the checklist, from that cross-examination quality check on the schedule to preserving claims evidence. This prepares teams not just for delivery, but for accountability, for dispute. So this raises an important question for you to explore. How might the expectation of having to formally defend the project later, the planning, the execution, the results, how might that drive better, more disciplined work from day one? If you assume litigation is coming, how much better is the quality of the work? We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for diving deep with us.
If you are interested in buying the project management checklist, then press the Buy Now button and follow the payment instructions. After payment, you can download the files.